Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am delighted that you can be with us today. Oh, my dear friends, our guest this week has a wonderful, lovely message to share, and I'm eager to help her share it. Robyn Vogel, M.A., is the author of the brand new book, Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. Isn't that a great title? And she's the host of the syndicated radio show of the same name, reaching over 80,000 listeners in its first year. She's an IFS-trained therapist, a couples specialist, a trauma-informed love and intimacy coach. Robyn has spent more than 2 decades helping individuals and helping couples to heal emotional wounds, to release shame, and to experience deeper, safer, and more fulfilling love. Wow, both within themselves and in their relationships. Robyn has really made a science of what is really immensely beautiful work. She's blending I knew I was going to mess this up. Blending internal family systems, somatic intimacy practices, nervous system attunement, and heart-centered relationship wisdom. She's gathered all of this into one practice. She brings warmth, depth, and a touch of magic to how she helps people. And you'd have to do all of that because what you're doing, if you're doing what Robyn is doing, is getting deep into the intimacy of people's personal relationships. You can't go deeper than that. Robyn brings warmth, depth, and a touch of magic to how she helps people. Her gentle and yet powerful approach creates spaces where people can feel safe to do what they need to do, which is to soften, open, and return to the truth of who each of them and both of them together truly are. Robyn teaches internationally. She leads transformational retreats, and she trains facilitators in her Come Back to Love, which is trademarked 4 Gates approach method. This is all what she has worked out herself for how she can more deeply help couples and help people in couple relationships feel ready and empowered to break old patterns and to cultivate intimacy that is rooted in self-trust and in emotional safety. When she's not writing or guiding others to love, Robyn can be found dancing, practicing yoga, meditating, or wandering somewhere beautiful in nature, following the path of curiosity, devotion, and joy. Oh, my dear, beautiful Robyn, that all sounds so great. I just want to know how you put it together. Welcome. Welcome to Seek Reality. It's lovely to have you with us today.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Roberta. That was quite an introduction, and I really appreciate it.
I haven't finished your book, but I've read part of it, so I see how hard you've worked to get where you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you've shared so far, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Well, talk first about how you got to this place, because you've had some difficult beginnings.
Yes, absolutely. And interestingly enough, I'll just share with our listeners and also with you that just a couple of days ago, I don't like that language, so I'm going to shift what I was about to say, which is that I had an assistant death ritual or ceremony with my dog, for a 16-year-old dog.
Wow, and that's a long relationship you had there.
Yes, exactly. So my dog died about 4 days ago from this recording. And wow, of course it brought up heartbreak and loss, and I miss him dearly in this moment. And it just reminded me, and reminds me, as if I needed a reminder, but it reminds me of why I'm doing this work and what I've done so far up until now to navigate heartbreak and loss and come back to love, to use my own language. So how did I get here? My life did begin with a lot of chaos and pretty big trauma, and my mother was ill early on when I was 6 years old. She died 4 years later when I was 10 years old. And that was traumatic enough, obviously. At the same time, it was compounded because in those days, I think the best advice, I can use that word loosely, was to not include the children, not tell the children what's going on, and not really talk about what's going on. And so I spent years trying to untangle, the grief and the loss and all the confusion, thinking that it was just focused on the actual, event of my mother's death at such an early age. And of course, that was significantly impactful. And I also got to really understand over the years that the way it was managed and not talked about really contributed significantly to how much healing I needed to do. Because one of the things I learned was to keep quiet, not talk about things, don't rock the boat, make everybody else happy. Otherwise, people would be upset, and people were upset enough. And those were a lot of adaptive, I'll call them, behaviors and protection and sort of survival skills to get through that time. But as I say to my clients and my students, what we did early on to protect ourselves are the exact things we need to unravel now, because they're still protecting from relationship, whether you're single and trying to find your partner, divorced and trying to stop repeating patterns, or in a relationship. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because it's about how you inside yourself navigate love. Yeah.
It's very hard that many people have grown up having lost a parent or even a grandparent that they were close to.
Yeah.
And they were not allowed to properly grieve those, and even to realize what the loss was. They lost their parent, and yet they were not allowed to see the death approaching. They were not allowed to understand when they were a child. Even a 6 or an 8-year-old child can appreciate what is happening in the family, can understand what that's going to mean. But when you and I were young, we were not allowed to know all that. We were protected from these feelings, and we're not allowed to express them. It was not polite to express them. It was not. It was not somehow. It was to be protected was considered to be the right thing to do, but it was not.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The word that comes to me is like unsavory for some reason. Like it just, it wasn't okay. It wasn't the
almost
right.
wasn't morally right
Right.
to experience those feelings, and yet they're associated with the person closest to you. What's morally wrong about feeling those feelings? And
Right.
many people were, and I hear from them now, even when they themselves are approaching the age at which they might die, they still haven't properly grieved people that they should have grieved decades ago.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for them now to do that grieving when they soon will be the age when they're going to approach their own deaths.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. And that
And
makes
I
it
think you
difficult.
handled it very well in your book, how it affected you in
Hmm.
these really unsavory ways, in these ways which were hard for you to understand what was even happening in your life.
Yeah, it was very confusing. It was very confusing. Yeah, so that work and some other losses too, but that one in particular, um, really has informed my work because it took me a really long time. I mean, maybe that's a self-judgment. It seems like it did take years. It took, 10, 15 years it took about 15 years to even like actually start talking about it now
Yeah.
that I recollect. And so it was extremely painful 15 years before I felt any kind of impulse to an okayness, permission to start processing, what had happened. And I remember this was about 20 years after my mother died. I had stepped into a counseling program, which is a very supportive program environment to do my own healing and learn to be a psychotherapist at the same time. From there, I went into some other form of personal growth with a group of women that stayed together for 2 years. And that was really sacred and very powerful for me. Yeah. And one of the things that came out of that experience was, and I remember it as like it was yesterday, I was sitting in a room. We had just finished like a piece of healing work that we had done with our facilitator. And we were all just sort of relaxing after that and having some food and tea. And I looked across the room at this group of women, maybe 3, 4, 5 of them on the other side of the room. And they were all kind of like cuddled up with each other, and they were laughing, and they were just being really like close with each other. And I was sitting with myself. Maybe there were people nearby, but I wasn't like hugging anybody or connected with anybody physically. And I heard myself say, "Oh, look at that. That's for them, but not for me." And my jaw, just like you are, for those that aren't on video, Roberta has her jaw open as I did as well. Like I heard it, and then I went, oh my goodness. Like what was that?
Right.
And the thing is, it wasn't an unfamiliar voice, but I didn't realize consciously that I was saying it. I knew it was something that I had been telling myself repeatedly for a long time, but it was in that moment that I actually heard myself. And then immediately I said, oh my goodness, like I cannot keep living this way. How, like, that's the most awful belief. That's just going to keep me obviously over here on the other side of the room by myself, believing that I'm not good enough and that I'm less than and that I don't deserve happiness and joy and abundance and life purpose and all of that, because I hadn't come into any of that yet. I was married at the time, but hadn't had kids yet. And wow, that just changed everything. That just changed everything. And that was a really, really powerful moment of knowing that my life had to change. I couldn't keep going the way I was going.
So tell people who are sitting on the edge of their chairs now.
What did I do?
How did you give yourself permission to grieve and accept?
So I'll rewind about 5 years from the giving myself permission in the conscious space where I was with those women, and then making choices to like participate in certain personal growth, to start seeing a therapist. Like those were choices that I made that were an indication that I had given myself permission to start to do the work. But 5 years prior, when it just sort of started to happen, that I couldn't help but tend to my grief. Like I'm in this conversation, I'm remembering a moment where I was at a celebration, like maybe it was a bar mitzvah or a wedding. I think I sort of feeling like it was a bar mitzvah. Yes, it was a bar mitzvah because it was the age around the time that my mother had died, right? In the Jewish religion, bar mitzvah was like age 12, age 13.
Yeah.
So I was at this bar mitzvah of my extended family, my husband's family. And I found myself in the bathroom crying my eyes out, like hysterical crying. And I was sitting there in the stall, crying, like just nonstop. And I was like, why am I crying? Like, what is it about this experience? Like, it's joyful. She did great. There's a lot of people there dancing, like everyone's having a good time. And I'm like weeping. And it's just an example. And so I share it because I'm sure I'm not the only one that this has happened to, where you just find yourself in grief, seemingly about nothing. Quote unquote, nothing.
Yeah, or even at a happy event.
Absolutely, at a very happy event. And I didn't really understand it at the time because I was in my like mid-20s. I didn't know what was going on. But that sort of feels like a point where like the grief and the whatever I was holding inside me had sort of reached the top of the bucket, right? And like just started pouring out.
Yeah.
And there's really I mean, you can hold yourself back in that space, but the invitation in that space is to give yourself permission to keep doing the work, to step
Yeah.
into what needs healing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
having the right person to support you and the right people around you, coaches, therapists, groups, family is so helpful and so supportive. Yeah.
So you grew beyond that. You became able not just to accept, but to grow beyond that situation and to begin to think about how you could help others
Right,
who were
exactly.
there.
I studied to be a psychotherapist, I became a licensed therapist at that time in my mid to early 30s. I'm 60 now, so that was a while ago. And I started doing, some work. I started doing some different things and eventually landed in the place that I knew that I was expert. And I actually want to drop in another story here because it's interesting. How did I land in this realm? Because I was doing other things. I was working with eating disorders and I was supporting people in different places in their lives. But when my husband at the time and I decided to separate because we knew like we were going in two different directions, and we continued to do a lot of therapy work together
Hmm.
to support each other, to support ourselves,
Which
to
is
support our
good.
two
Practicing on
children.
yourself is a very good way to learn
Yes,
and grow. That's true.
absolutely. And I remember we were standing outside of the therapist's office uh, one day. We were in the driveway waiting for something. I don't know who, what. And he said to me, "You should do this work with people." And I was like, "What do you mean?"
Your
And he's like,
ex-husband
"Well,
said that was that
yes,
kind of him.
yes,
Maybe you should
yes."
remarry that guy. He seems quite nice.
I've been happily co-parenting him with him for 20 years.
Oh, very nice.
And
Yeah.
he's happily married. But the point is, like, yeah, he said to me, "Robyn, you are an expert at relationships. Like, look what we've been through and how much you've worked on our connection." And, he just, I don't know, he also maybe just had insight and intuition. He was like, "You should do this for work." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're right." And then it kind of all opened up from there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's lovely. That's
Yeah. Very
lovely.
sweet. Yeah. So
So,
I've,
so
go ahead.
how, you went on. Did you did a lot of studying, I gather. You got a degree. You began to come up with ways to do this that other people had not done so deeply before. Talk about
Yeah.
that.
It's true. I mean, I tell my workshop participants and my clients that I share and facilitate work that has helped me. And as I said, I, began as a psychotherapist. I studied coaching to bring that in and many other modalities. But they're always modalities that have supported me in my own healing. And at some point, I had been healing some physical things from the trauma that I experienced, because as we know, the body and mind are not separate from each other. And so I was having some hormone imbalance, some pretty significant fatigue for many, many years. That was really difficult to deal with. And I was working on it on all different levels, all different ways. And everything was like helping a little bit, but nothing was like completely healing. And fatigue is a really, really challenging one. And at some point, fairly recently, like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, someone told me about neuroscience and neuroplasticity and working with beliefs in the brain that are creating situations for the body.
Aha.
And yeah, so I had
Beliefs
really
in the
been,
brain that are creating situations in the body. Okay.
yes, yes, yes. The body believes what the brain tells it.
Okay. The
So,
body is not that smart. So the body is just going to believe what the brain tells it. And the brain
exactly.
is not necessarily thinking straight all the time.
No,
Okay.
that's right. It's not. That's exactly right.
All right.
And I had done a lot of emotional work, which was very, extremely helpful. And I was doing a lot of the emotional work, obviously, with my clients, with the singles looking for a relationship and with a lot of couples that were trying to heal their own relationship with each other. And then I started studying and practicing some neuroplasticity tools through this wonderful woman whose name is Annie Hopper.
Neuroplasticity
Plasticity.
tool.
I'll share what that is exactly.
Okay, you're
Um,
going to need to because I don't know what that is.
I will,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. I just want to give Annie Hopper a shout out because her program and her book, Wired for Healing, are amazing, hands down.
Wired for
She's from
healing.
British
Okay.
Columbia. Yeah. Um, so neuroplasticity means that we can remold and rewire our brain. Thank God
Okay.
we can do that. Um,
Okay.
it starts out really, I think about it as like a big piece of clay that we can mold into different shapes.
That sounds pretty reassuring. All right, how do we do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's if we think about it like on a very basic level, we can learn a new language, right?
Uh-huh. Okay, that's true.
Right. The
Okay.
brain is our brains, because we're in the US, are molded for English, right? We learned English. Maybe you learned another language. I don't know. I learned a little bit of a few others, but basically English. Now we want to learn Spanish. We have to create actually new neural pathways in our brain
Hmm.
that will know the language of Spanish, because
Okay.
otherwise we know the language of English.
Okay.
So our brains are able to be remolded, which is really important because, for example, taking the belief that happiness is for those women over there, that was a very strong belief.
Okay, back to that group. Oh,
Yeah,
and our stunning realization that's not for me. I'm not the one of those happy people.
exactly. So
Okay.
that had a pretty significant groove in my brain. That's what I
Uh-huh.
believed for 20 years
Oh my, yes.
until I shifted it to believe something else,
Okay.
which was I deserve to be happy.
Yep.
I'm a good person. I deserve to be happy. I'm lovable, just as I am. And, but it takes a little bit of work to rewire the brain to learn new beliefs and new patterns.
Yes.
And I studied that about 6, 7 years ago, and it's miraculous work. It's steeped in science, so it's not miracles like, oh my God, all of a sudden something just changed. It's
Yeah. Look
actually
at this
very,
big spark of light. Okay.
yeah, it's not that. It's actually steeped and grounded in science. um,
Okay. All right. So you're sitting there. You are thinking that's not for me. And then there is a spark of not light, but just realization in your brain. It can be for me, right?
yes.
Okay. And what made you see that?
Oh, back to that piece. What made me, I don't know. That's a very good question. I just had sort of an awakened moment where I was aware on a level that I hadn't been before at that time. I can't honestly explain it. I had been doing a lot of deep work, so I know
So
that
it came
contributed.
from the deep work. It
Oh,
has to have
for
come
sure.
from that.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. They're happy. I've been doing deep work that made me realize that I too can be and deserve to be happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I rewired my brain with that awareness.
And because you have done this for you, you realize even further that you can help other people do it for themselves.
Right.
And that's why what you do is so successful with others,
Mm,
because you've been there. You've
right.
been where you were telling yourself that you didn't deserve what those other people
Right.
had.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's why you can help other people who are in that same rut. And it's a rut.
Yeah, it
It's
is
an
a rut.
emotional rut.
It's an emotional and a rut in the brain. Yep, because the beliefs get stuck.
The
And
belief gets stuck there.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. The beliefs get stuck. I mean, how many times, I could ask our listeners, how many times have you looked in the mirror and told yourself, oh, I don't look great. I'm not attractive. Like, that's actually a place that we could, invite more awareness, because just like I hadn't noticed that belief that happiness was for those people over there and not for me, people will look in the mirror and judge themselves, but not actually hear themselves judging, because it's just a habit and a pattern. Thank God it's not my habit and pattern anymore. But I do remember days where I looked in the mirror and just judged myself. Oh, I don't look good. I'm too fat. I'm too this. My hair's too curly, whatever it was. And it's a pattern that people get into, and then it just sticks and doesn't change. And when you start to do the deep work with somebody, like you said, who has been there before and can give you the tools and the support, then all of a sudden you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I'm about to judge myself. Or, oh, I just judged myself. Why don't I stop doing that? Now, it's not just telling yourself stop doing that, because if that were the case, it would be very easy to change. There are very specific, deep emotional tools, very specific tools to rewire your brain and make those changes. But they work. They really work.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that's true because when I first saw you today, you were this, I saw this big grinning happiness on your face, and that's quite remarkable.
It is. I say that my life keeps getting better and better each year. And I didn't only lose my mother young, I also lost my father young. And
How old were you when he died?
I also lost a partner. It's been like just losses. My father died when I was 30,
Yeah, that's
and
also young.
it is young. He didn't live long enough to meet my children or to be a grandfather to them. Um, yeah. And then after divorce, I lost a partner, and and still, you know, and still I have a wonderful life. I have incredible love in my life. I have amazing community and so much creativity in my work that I love. And yeah, it's because I just keep doing my work and sharing it with other people.
The wonderful thing, and I share this with you, the wonderful thing is to have work that you love
Hmm.
that makes of the people you are helping parts of a large love-based circle.
Hmm.
There's nothing, I think, better than that.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
really
and I
true.
have that too. I mean, these are people that I love and that they love me. I mean, it's spontaneous. I get emails all the time
Mhm.
from people that I've touched that love me and that it's mutual and
So great.
I can't begin to tell you how wonderful that is. It's like a drug.
Yes.
Or it even is a drug. I don't know. But I don't need to take anything
No.
to make me myself be drugged this way.
Yeah, it's a dose of endorphins for sure that elevates our mood and keeps us feeling connected and belonging, a sense of belonging that's so important. I'm coming today at the day of our recording. I'm coming out of a 3-day retreat that I just led for singles over Valentine's Day weekend. And 99% of them came in not knowing anybody and not knowing me, and which I think was pretty remarkable and very brave. And they left just like, we all love each other. We feel so connected now. We feel connected to something, like you said, just said, like a bigger group of people that are, because the Come Back to Love community has grown over the 20 years. A big group of people where they can feel supported and not strange. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
wonderful to witness.
And my group actually is two different kinds of groups. One of them is people who know me through as a teacher
Mm,
about death and the afterlife, and
mm,
also a community based in love of Jesus. That's two different kinds of groups. And those two different kinds of groups uh, are really so totally love-based.
Yes.
But then there's this other group of people who know me only as an attorney who advises business owners. And there are still people in that group, and I still work with them year after year. And there are still 6 family businesses there, and I hear from them and work with them every day. And they love me too, and I love them. And so
Wow.
that's 2 totally different groups. Neither of them sort of knows that the other exists. But I don't mind that. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow,
But
that's wonderful.
I think it's terrific. I'm very happy about that. I would not at all like to lose the other. I just love all those people. They're so
Yeah.
close to me. Um, but that's the way it is. There's more than enough of me to go around, I have to say.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Yeah, I would really encourage any of our listeners today that don't have community or don't feel part of something to take a look at that because it is, like you said, Roberta, so valuable, so nourishing, so supportive for
Be part of a
life.
community. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And you have all this community, and wow, I love my communities.
Mm,
They're multiple
same.
actually, as I say. But I
Same.
meet with them, all the time. I love them all the time. I just can't tell you how much I love them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't I
same.
wouldn't I would do anything for all the members of them, each individually. They're all part of my, and then I have an actual family too, that is my real family. But I don't care. I just feel so blessed.
Yeah.
Blessed. That's what you are as well.
Yeah, I feel the same. Very blessed. Yeah, thank
But we
you.
can we can build these families around the things that we love and they love.
Yeah, very
There's
true.
there's just no limit to the size and the kinds of family we can have.
And there's no accidents that we're talking today, and some of your work is around the afterlife. So just want to point that out.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, I blog weekly, and I also do these podcasts weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 2 different kinds of topics, but they each of them has thousands of subscribers,
Mm,
and each is a
yeah,
growing community. That's all entirely different from my my legal clients who don't know about either of those situations,
right.
which
Yeah.
which I think is wonderful. I never talk about the other things I do to my legal clients. They
Well,
would,
one of the things that supported me in my come back to love journey, since you're talking about death and the afterlife, is the experience I had with my partner who passed away while I was in the room with him, and the experience that I had of the continuity of his soul that
yes,
I felt in the moment and actually saw
talk about
leave
it.
his
Talk about it.
leave his body. Yeah, I'm grateful to be able to talk about this here. I don't talk about it that much, and it's not in my book.
Talk
um, yeah, so he died when he was 51, and I was in my early 40s. We had about a 9-year difference in our relationship, and he was such a beloved person in my life
And what
for
was his
many,
cause
many
of death?
reasons. Sorry?
What was his cause of death?
He had a form of cancer, a rare form of cancer. He had a bunch of treatment, didn't work, died from the treatment, very common.
Hmm.
Um, and I was at the hospital with him, and they were, saying like, we can move him over to the sort of hospice area, palliative care, and just, wait. And so I went with him to that, and we brought in some musicians, which was lovely, and we could hear him sort of taking deep breaths, like in response to the music, which is quite beautiful because he wasn't communicative at that point. But we brought music in, and then we just. I don't think I stayed there every single night, actually, and it was only a couple of days. But on this one particular night, I stayed, and maybe he was there 48 hours, not very long. So I stayed on the second night and I sat, next to his bed, and his breathing was very, very rhythmical, very deep,
Mhm.
and very present in the room. And I was sort of dozing, and I felt like like death woke me up. I remember those were the words that I was sharing with people at the time. The breathing stopped, which was very loud in the room. And I felt like kind of an energy wake me up, not that I was sound asleep or anything. Um, but in that moment, I got that his breathing had stopped, and I looked over at him and I saw this ball sphere of energy
Mhm.
coming out of
Mhm.
his body.
Mhm.
And here's here's the piece that struck me so strongly. I mean, one, like seeing a ball, right? It's like,
Yep.
oh, like I'm literally with my eyes seeing a ball of
Of
energy.
energy. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this was 20 years ago now, almost. And, but what I felt was so amazing. What I felt was him, the way he was before he died. No,
Yep.
sorry, the way he was before he got sick,
Yep.
because he was sick for about 8 months. And
Yep.
it was like so much joy, and like just his vibrancy and his humor and his movement in his body. We danced a lot together, and he was a dancer. And I remember feeling and saying to myself, "Oh wow, like this is the man that I love so much." Like it just washed over. And then the ball rose up, and that feeling that I just described of that intense personality energy of this beautiful human just kind of dissipated. Like the ball rose up, and the sense I was having just kind of rose with it, and that was it.
You want me to
I
explain
had
that?
some other experiences the next day or the day after, but anyway, just to say that one piece, like
Do you want me
it
to
was
explain it, what happened, what that was?
sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay. When
It was
people are
beautiful.
actively dying, you have an energy body. You know Matryoshka dolls, those nested
Yeah,
dolls? Well, we're
sure.
built like those dolls.
Yes.
One of those dolls is matter. That stays. There's also an energy body in just that's directly inside that. That's energy. That stays too. But most of the nested bodies go. And they start people who have been awake while this was happening describe Velcro. They start to detach in your fingers and in your toes and then up your arms and legs, and it doesn't hurt, but it feels like Velcro detaching. And then it gathers in your chest. All that energy does gathers in your
Mm,
chest. And then it leaves the body, usually through the chest. That's the ball you saw. All
that's what I
that
saw.
energy comes out of your body. That's him. That's leaving his body. And you saw that happen. Aren't you lucky?
I know.
It felt just like the wonderful young man he had been because that's
Yes.
what it was, my darling.
Yeah.
That's who it
Yeah.
was. And he lifted up, and if he could have talked to you, he was sending thoughts to you. That's what he was doing and
Mm,
saying, I'm leaving, my darling. And as he lifts, you see, and he doesn't have that matter around him anymore, his energy vibration rises pretty rapidly.
mm,
You didn't see around him probably the people who had come for him, but he is very happy because he can see them all around. His
mm,
mother, his grandmother, hi grandma, his pets, they've all come to take him home.
mm.
So he's very happy and very excited. And as he rises, you can't you aren't rising in vibration the way he is. And
Right.
so therefore gradually he rises to the point where you can't see him anymore. And
Mm,
that's why he disappeared or seemed to dissipate. But
yeah.
he was very happy because he was being greeted by his loved ones in the room. Very happy, joyous, terrific. Everything was wonderful. That's what you witnessed, and what a joyous thing to witness. Now,
Yeah.
in the air, typically, once they're up high enough, they reform into the a being. They look like a person again. If you were a very high level mystic, you could have witnessed that too.
Mm,
And typically then they either lie above or they sometimes they form into a lotus position in the air. And
mm.
they're naked, but quickly they form, oh my goodness, they quickly form clothing and it's wonderful reunions. And very quickly then the silver cord breaks. That's what attaches his material body to his astral body, and then his material body dies. Now, so that was what you were witnessing.
It was
Wonderful.
beautiful. Yeah, it was
Yes,
really
it's
beautiful.
beautiful, exciting, wonderful. That's
Yeah,
gorgeous. That's just so great. And
yeah.
then once he's ready to leave, he leaves very quickly. And all he does really is continue to raise his vibration because the next level of reality is right in the same place. It's just like
Mm.
changing a channel.
Yeah, he hung around for a while. I like to have my head scratched, and I had a tingling on my head for 5 days. And I also had tingling on my lips after saying, I wish I could kiss you one more time that night. And I just got this all tingling on my lips. So
Isn't that
I think he
wonderful?
was hovering for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous.
It was amazing. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
how
It was very
beautiful.
healing.
But that sense of having him be that ball of energy and be suddenly young again, that is genuine. You were truly part of his
Yeah,
death moment, which is just such a blessing. Such a blessing.
such a blessing. Yeah, it truly was, especially having gone through, the death of my mother and the death of my father in completely different ways, like
Yeah.
completely different.
Hmm.
So having this experience with him was just such a blessing, so healing, and just showed me, what happens.
That's
And
what happens, exactly what
yeah,
happens.
yeah, it was beautiful.
That,
So
oh, happy for you. So
thank
happy.
you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those details with me and with everyone who's listening. It's
Yeah,
really, really
because
valuable.
it's all true. That's exactly what happens. So you can tell that story to anyone
Yes.
and they will validate it if there's someone who knows the whole thing. That's
Yeah. Beautiful. So I
so,
want to,
my dear. You
yeah,
so
just
you learned,
go
you
ahead.
did all this studying and you learned what all the things are that the experts have been learning about love, about healing of relationships. You did all this study. Once you understood and you had healed your relationships and your life, you you began to teach it to others, which I think is so wonderful and so beautiful
Yeah.
of you.
Thank you. Yes, I did. I've been teaching, for almost 20 years now, and I finally put it
Wow.
all in my book, which just came out in the beginning of February, early February.
So do you
And
have a copy of it there to show to
I
people?
do. I can show those that can see the video that
How
come back to
pretty.
love.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It's it's part memoir because I needed to tell, some of my story and how I got here and how the work evolved into the specific work of Come Back to Love that people take on themselves and that I teach. And yeah, I wanted to write it down because I felt there was a legacy piece of sharing
Yep.
my story and tools that are so helpful. The book is almost like part workbook in a way. There's just so many exercises and things for people to work through as they work through the Four Gates approach to come back to love. Down the path, I say, but the path isn't linear, but it's nice for our brains to think about it in a linear way.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
But with the sense I got was that you sort of find people where they are and help them to heal the things in them that feel broken to them,
Yeah.
and then come together and go from there. Because everybody's different. Everybody who is damaged in different ways. So it's important that they be able to help themselves and help one another to heal in those
Yeah.
different ways. So that's what I
Absolutely.
found striking about what you've done, which is to help them to do that. You can't cookie cutter this. This is something that's
No.
it's
Yeah, it's
different.
very, very individual. Yeah, you can't cookie cutter it for sure. It's very individual. Everybody's showing up, like you said, exactly where they are, with whatever wounds and experiences they've had in their lives, wherever they feel stuck, which when they come to me, they feel stuck in love and intimacy and connection. And we take the next piece, you know, we
Oh
just
my
take the
dear.
next
Well,
piece.
we are totally sort of out of time now. Suddenly I realized, but we've talked about so much. What do you want people to take away from our conversation today?
Well, I want people to know that healing is possible and that they don't have to find themselves repeating unhealthy relationship patterns, maybe unhealthy behaviors that they find themselves unable to stop, and that love is entirely possible, and that I feel like if I could do it, anybody can do it to heal and come back to love. And it really starts with ourselves, with loving ourselves.
It starts with loving ourselves. I think that's extremely important for people to understand.
Yeah,
If you don't love yourself, it's very hard for you to, it's hard for, number one, for anyone else to love you if you can't find a way to love yourself. But it's also hard for you to love others either. It's sort of starts with self-love, doesn't
yeah.
all?
We can't give what we don't have.
That's true.
And
Wow, well said.
yeah,
Love is that's quite beautiful.
yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the conversation and for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, if you can wait just a moment, I just want to tell everyone who'll be here next week, and then I'd like to sort of say a proper farewell.
Sure.
This is so lovely. Once again, my beloved friends, we've come to the end of our time together for today. This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Please never forget that you're a powerful, eternal being. You never began and you never will end. And when you really get all the implications of that simple fact, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Ryan Reichert. Ryan is a born-again Christian and an author, speaker, podcaster, and servant leader with over 4 decades of life experience working across small-town America and also global metropolises because he's a retired lieutenant colonel, having served 23 years in the U.S. Army, including Airborne Ranger and multiple combat deployments. Wow. Following his military career, he transitioned into the Fortune 500 world, gaining insight into corporate leadership and strategy. And above all, Ryan's greatest passion is helping others, whether through volunteering, advocacy, or service. He goes wherever he believes that God is leading him, committed to making a lasting impact wherever he's sent. Rand's journey includes being a recovering alcoholic, an addict, a father, a business owner, continuing to shape his mission, and guiding others toward faith, purpose, and transformation. This is big, and I hope you'll join us next week so we can sort of better understand all of it. And this week, our guest has been Robyn Vogel. She's the author of a brand new book called Come Back to Love, A Path to Healing. She's had her own sort of journey through some difficult times and healed herself. And she's also the host of a syndicated radio show that reached more than 80,000 listeners in its first year. Robyn Vogel is an IFS-trained therapist. She's a couples specialist and a trauma-informed love and intimacy coach. She spent more than 2 decades helping individuals and couples to heal emotional wounds, release shame, and experience deeper, safer, and more fulfilling love, both within themselves and in their relationships. And she is the real deal. A lot of people believe they can do this, but they do it on the surface. Robyn does it to people's very hearts and souls, and I think that is a really beautiful life. And frankly, we've gone over our time, so all I have time really to say now is This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy, please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all in this whole universe, you are infinitely, eternally, perfectly, and forever loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.